for taking some time and speaking with us this evening. So let's start with Mr. Matthews. How did you get involved in the film? Just go right down the line.
I just, I did Returning and Dead, and I asked Tom if that had anything to do with me being cast in part 6, and he said no, but basically for me it was just, I got the size, went in for an audition for the casting director, and is this thing on?
I don't think they're on. Oh, now it's
Yeah.
No, it's on.
And I got a call back, and then met Tom and about 25 other people over at Paramount. Couldn't tell you where he was sitting because it's all kind of a blur. It was between me and 3-4 other guys?
Yeah.
Something like that. And then we were off to the races.
Hands down, he was the best.
Oh, really?
Humor, he could be a show, he did it all.
Not so bad. You were bad.
Well, you got quite a chance to. You got to win the girl. You have all the elements.
And Tom, how did you get started in that Friday the 13th?
Oh, yeah, we're going down the line.
Oh, okay.
You want to swallow that microphone or what?
That's a little disturbing. Can I get a little bit more, like, EQ? This is terribly high. Check. No, just how I got started. It was Paramount. Well, yeah, I cast. We always have. Let's say like we all showed up at Paramount Studios. Seems to be the common denominator. And Tommy wrote this. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of choices. I just remember showing up and driving home and saying, "Okay, you the man."
That felt good.
And I was thinking, but
Yeah, didn't I tell you at the time?
I think you did before I even left. That rarely happens. The directors don't tell somebody they have anything and tell them, in fact, you don't really, to have it. Usually at first callback, second callbacks, all this kind of stuff that you call back to. It's just, But back in the day, there was probably 30 of us that literally went up for there was a lot of cats. I mean, it was people that lived in the valley, the sons and the daughters of the people that lived there. It wasn't like YouTube and stuff.
everybody that looks like you.
Well, like Brad Pitt, I used to go with Brad Pitt, used to go with,
Oh, yeah, you guys are twins.
No, but I'm saying before anybody made it, Brad Pitt used to show up all the time, and what's his name, from Ocean's 11, what's his name?
George Clooney.
George Clooney always wears, because he always wears black boots, he comes flicking in, and we did it. I mean, I saw Tommy in interviews, and maybe it was like a very small clique of people that happened to have that. It's not the way it is now. So, Tommy McLoughlin did a great job at writing stuff, and he gave me great freedom. My own experience with that, and he let me have the last 2.5 minutes, where it was left to film. He threw a rock at me and said, "Dude, we got 2.5 minutes left, we're done here. Do whatever you want to do." And he walked away. And he said, "If we like it, we'll keep it." And that was it. That's what I remember. One day it was.
That was cool, I gotta admit that.
But it's
My
true.
favorite line of yours is, "I never driven a house before."
There was some light improv in there.
But that scene when he's stacking the rocks, talking about the Indians placing the rocks here and this and that, that's all improv. This one told this one to go for it, and this one was off and running about this long story about stacking rocks and women.
If we had an hour here, you'd go, "Oh, he's doing it again."
No, go back and watch it. It's totally do what you want to do, and there they went. So I was like, "Oh, that's cool."
You rarely get given that gift, like somebody trusted somebody with that. I mean, he said, he was honest. He said, like, "Hey, we're done. We got all we had to do," and he's just a pleasure to work with. You trust the person who's actors who really figures the freedom. They've written it for you, and then they direct you for it. So you're basically kind of a bit of a puppet. It's different. Like take Mel Gibson and like something like when you had what was the great when you write and direct and do the whole thing, and all this freedom, and he just wrote it, and it all just made sense, and everybody had like a good experience on that. Everybody was
Still friends 36 years
Look
later.
at that.
So there you go.
It's so rare. It's such a blessing, and thank you all, because without fans, I don't know who you are. We're all doing this act in a garage somewhere by ourselves. It's really true. I thank you very much for loving us through time and telling your children and all.
And how old are you? 3.
3.
I met her earlier. She runs the house now.
The next generation.
Yeah, it is. We're lucky enough.
Cowboy shirt too. You're all right with me.
I'm a cowboy.
So same question for me.
Yeah.
My story's a little different. I went in for part 5, and
Over at Universal.
yes, thank you.
Oh, wow.
And I got the job. And the day that I went in for my wardrobe fitting, and I had to sign the contract, the director asked me to have dinner, and discuss the script. And I hadn't even read the script yet, so there really wasn't anything to discuss. And it was also Halloween, and I had plans. And the next day I didn't have a job because the director said I wasn't well enough endowed. So I didn't really think much of it. They hadn't paid me for it because the contract was signed. But then I went in for part 6, and they said, pretend like you never met Frank Mancuso Jr. before, who was our producer. And Tommy cast me. And I don't remember why he did, but
Because you were great. Why else would I?
That's all I wanted to hear. But it's just been such a blessing, and to sit here with this gang is just really super cool. And thank you guys.
Me, Tom took the biggest chance with me because I had absolutely zero experience in stunts or being in front of a camera or anything even related to where Paramount Studio was, let alone a movie studio. So I was the second choice. First choice, unfortunately, didn't deliver well on the first daily that came back pretty much, and the second choice was called, and 4 days later I was in Covington, Georgia, putting wardrobe on and going to work with Tom. And going back on what Tom said about Tom McLoughlin, having zero experience, very simple, very clear, gave you a direction, and then just told you to embrace it, told you what he didn't want, but then allowed you to take it from that point forward.
So I knew he was military, so I knew.
See, yeah, that's the big, that's.
And I still remember him telling just he can't look like a punk. He can't look, he's got to look strong.
Like you could do that.
Universal Studios type movie, and I said I can do that. And I still remember my very first scene that Tom came in, and it was a side profile of Jason with a motorhome behind it rocking, and turning, looking at it, just tilt my head a quarter inch, not a half an inch, just enough to be acknowledged on camera, which still works today.
Yeah.
So I was just very fortunate, and I'm very fortunate to be here, and I'm appreciative of the folks around me that they allowed me to sit up there with them.
How did you get to?
How'd you get the job? I never heard
I was
that.
very close with Harvey Weinstein.
Oh,
I could speak with him. It was worth it. Mine is kind of strange because through the 70s, if you were a filmmaker, and I was a wannabe filmmaker, all they gave you was, scripts that were in a forest with a bunch of women to kill, and just said, can you come up with something other than a mask? Because that's what we want. And they'd give you money to go and do that. That wasn't what I wanted to do. And so I had this love of Gothic horror and wrote this script called One Dark Night, which is about a girl staying in a mausoleum all night, being brought into a club, a girl club in high school. And all these corpses came out and stuff, so it was completely different, type of genre. And it was, it became sort of a cult film over the years, but, I did it. I walked around with the film cans, going to all the studios and stuff. Nope. Then I got a call and they said, they need a writer-director for the next Jason movie. And I go, well, didn't the last one not do well? And it's like, yeah, well, people were mad because it wasn't Jason and it was Foster.
It's a hard thing.
And, and then it looked like it was going to be Tommy Jarvis at the end of the movie, but then having a mask. And then we have to come a year earlier, because normally these things came out every 2 years. We're going to come in a year earlier, and we got to say, Jason's back, he's alive, whatever. So just bring him back from the dead. What else? Just bring him back from the dead. I can do anything else? Yeah. Can I put comedy in it? What do you mean? Well, I want the people to be likable and, have a great relationship, so when he died, it's like, oh, shoot, I like them, as opposed to some of the movies where it's like, yeah, kill the bitch. I hated that, because the crowd was like, a mom, some of these things. So they let me go. I went across the wall at Paramount Studios. There's a cemetery there called Hollywood Forever, and I wrote it in the cemetery very quickly, gave it to Paramount. They went, great, let's go. So off we went, and it was just fun to take ideas. Like the first movie I saw with my dad was James Bond's Dr. No, and I thought, what about if we had an opening where it's Jason instead of James Bond doing that? Are the fans going to hate this? I don't know. I got to do it. So I was just taking wild chances and trying to make something that would be different from the other movies. But the big thing is that I wanted to make sure he had an agenda. He wasn't just going around killing people. He was going after Tommy. and bringing him back to life. And if you remember all the classic monsters, whether it's Frankenstein, Dracula, Wolfman, they never wanted to be that. They were happy, even Dracula says to be dead, to be believed to be dead must be glorious. And Frankenstein, love, dead, hate, living. So I thought, same thing with Jason, he's happy being there. Tommy brings her up, so he's gonna go kill this kid. Anybody in his way, down they go. Tommy's obviously screwed up, he went to just burn his body, now he's brought him back, and now he's got to stop. So both of them had agendas, which hadn't been done before. So it had much more of a story base, which I wanted to have. So you were really rooting. Bringing kids in was also something I thought, they're not gonna let me do it. I can? Oh, great. And the kids have really helped you care more about what's gonna happen.
Also, the relationships between the two. I mean, Megan and I, there was like a little
Yes.
chance of romance there.
Exactly.
So the people got involved in they got invested in the characters and stuff like that, which we really hadn't seen before.
And I just kind of like, smart, wise guy humor back and forth. They would insult each other with love, but, sort of that stuff they did in the 30s and 40s, that snappy dialogue.
I like that hairy term.
Hey Tommy, I got a question. Did you this just came to me? Did you, while you were done writing, did you think about if you would have been left alone, another one after that? Did you see the way that would go on to did you nothing like that?
No.
So just ended right there.
No.
Okay, because you didn't leave anything unedited or whatever. Okay.
I did put up a hint of something, if I ever did, that's in there, because people ask me about this all the time, and go, you have to wait. As soon as I come up with another idea, you'll see it fulfilled. Which I finally did, and like 3 years ago, I wrote a script called Jason Never Dies. And right now, there's nothing I can do with it. I'm working on it, trying to, now they've solved the rights issue, where Sean Cunningham now can do anything with Jason's mask in it, but he can't have the name Friday the 13th without getting Victor Miller's agreement, and Victor can only do Pamela up until obviously her death, and young Jason, he can't do anything in the mask. So these two have been battling this thing out, and finally, Victor's got a show called Crystal Lake, and they're going to do it as a Peacock series. So some of the fans are going, well, how's he going to do the mask? And the guy who's running it, blanking on his name right now, he show ran Hannibal. But I called him up and I said, I've got all this stuff for Pamela, and he goes, I can't hear anybody.
What if we call him as a group?
I can't listen, because I can't say anybody, I was influenced by anybody. But, I'm going to still stay on the Jason one, because I think, as fans, I think you'd love this, because when I was writing it, I was sitting in the theater going, okay, I hear people reacting to this, no, yes, okay, yes, good. Because I miss that, audience getting into it, or like the credit card with American Express. There was always somebody in the theater going, don't leave home without it. Everybody would laugh. He thought he was great. He's going to have a good time tonight with his girlfriend, because he was the hero, and he was just kind of led into that. But I love when people participate, get into the film. So, that was kind of, I didn't know if fans were going to like it. We were shocked, we got good reviews with a lot of the papers, and they said, yeah, let's do another one. I said, I have no more ideas.
Tommy, at this point right now, if there was another one, would it be not Friday the 13th? Would it not be the 13th part of this? I was just talking to a couple of people going, isn't it 13th would be the next one?
Yeah.
So if there was a way to start, because instead have it start completely from scratch again, let it bloom into something else, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just thought nuke the whole thing else, and there's just this little inkling of starting back over again. Because the guy who wants to be dead, it's just interesting. One thing because I can tell right now, the serious stuff is there's just one humorous thing that I forgot to tell you that's really kind of important, is that this beautiful young lady and I went to school together, and here's the thing is, I knew her before she knew me. And this is the difference when you're in 7th grade, and the hottest thing in the world is in 9th grade, when junior high, that's how you know them. She was like, oh my gosh. It was like, oh, so here's what happens. And, when I went to junior high, I got cut. We did a thing where they changed, you used to go 7th, 8th, 9th grade. Well, I'm in 8th grade, ready to go to 9th, and they screwed it, they just go right to high school. So right now we got the 9th grade being the one. So she was always ahead of me, and would have never noticed me in a million years. But when I'm laying in a bed in that motorhome, when I was introduced to her, because I was in all of a sudden, yeah, she's coming right for the thing outside my way. That's how she was. And it was the thing was, if you could only know what went over my head. People are like, I was like, man, did you get a heart? Is this a really good thing? No idea. It was fearful. It was like, oh my God, it was fearful, and oh my, and she was like, oh, okay, yeah, I knew you from this, that, and then I didn't you could see her eyes like, I don't know who really they are. I was kind of like, here, you were there, I get it. It's taken a while to go, but, and you realize this, that whole scene that you see us doing, if you study it well, and she does people was, she's dancing to the music. And I'm acting like something else. It was really, truthfully, it resold it really well, but it was not a comfortable part for me anyway. Also, you could see on the side, because we were supposed to have close on the side of this, where the camera was. I had boxers on, and it was like, all the times, like, we could see your boxers. So I'm like, actually, I'm in a jock strap. And we just thinking like, and she's like, she's way more like having fun. I'm just like, screwed, like, you're screwed. And she's like, do this, she's kind of close. I'm just like, this is like, ah. But he was smart with the cameras. Smart. He had two things going on at one time, so he covered the whole thing. It was hard to like look at them. But I love her as much as anybody. Period. She's a lovely woman, and her and I we're better friends today than we were the day before that. Before that, we've become nothing but friends. We got. So that's the thing. But yeah, we went to school junior high together. Known each other for 12 years.
The other reason I hired him is that he can talk and never take a breath.
Oh shit! Amazing. They stopped me. Oh my gosh.
No, he was that quick and sharp when we were doing this. It's like when we saw him again after all these years, it was like you're exactly the same.
Faster now than you were.
I agree.
When you come to the closet, nobody talks to you at all. You just, oh, this is. When I was going to live in Idaho.
So, Tom, you had mentioned you were able to bring kids back into the camp. And I always thought that the films were really missing something with that, because that added a whole other element of danger with Jason around. Talk about how you were able to intertwine that within the story, and how did you bring the kids back? Was it just easy? You just asked?
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be easy at all, because when you use children in movies, obviously the parents have to be there, they have to agree, there has to be a studio teacher, if they're in school, they have to do a certain amount of hours, and not let them work past midnight. And those scenes by the lake were at 5 in the morning. And in Georgia, there was no studio teacher, the parents were right there, it's like, oh, you love Jason, you love him. The kids would go to craft service, be eating all the candy and stuff, pumped, ready to go. And they were wonderful. They were sweet, wonderful kids, and they were, none of them were really actors. So you got, the benefit of just their regular personalities. One of them had a Mickey Mouse t-shirt or sweatshirt. We weren't supposed to show Mickey Mouse a lot of it. Walt Disney was supposed to have something to say about that, but nobody ever bothered us. But the kids were wonderful, and the one that plays little Nancy, we recently re-hooked up with her, and obviously she's now got children of her own, and that boy loves Jason. And she wrote me and said, "Is there any way of getting a mask? I mean, like the ones we had in the movie." I said, "I don't have any, but let me ask CJ." This man gave her the mask from Alice, right?
Yeah.
Alice Cooper, in the Alice Cooper video. I mean, incredible. I mean, that thing must be worth $1 gazillion. And he just, out of the goodness of his heart, I said, don't let him take that mask to school, whenever you do. I mean, that's his college, right?
I just saw, you just talk about kids in movies and stuff. I just saw Once Upon a Time in the West, Charles Bronson and Henry Fonda. Henry Fonda was like, every man in America wanted to be Henry Fonda. And he's the bad guy in this movie, and he's killing kids. I was like, I was blowing my mind. Henry Fonda's shooting kids.
Yeah. It's like Jimmy Stewart. I just take your picture on the kids. I don't care.
It was wrong.
So talk about bringing comedy into the film. Horseshack was actually in the beginning.
Oh,
Yeah.
So talk about what it was like working with him.
It was great working with him. I mean, he was, I was a big fan of his from Welcome Back Kotter as Horseshack. And, he was just a sweet guy and had a terrible death. Which you didn't see, because CJ punches his fist through his chest, Horseshack's chest, and then he has his heart and drops on the ground and bounces. We didn't get to see that movie because they cut it out. I saw
He steps on it.
Sergeant David, he walks over and
The rating.
squirts all over.
Let me ask you a question. How many of you guys remember Welcome? Like, how are you old enough to remember actually watch Welcome Back Kotter? Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Well, that's his uncle.
See, here's the thing, I'll tell you, my uncle's John, Joel is my uncle. So here's the thing with Ron Palillo, that this is when I got there, Ron Palillo was like, his career like kind of come, this is like the end of his career, and this is when they give you a love boat in a Fantasy Island and they kick you going. That's like the end of the thing. That's what happened. So what happened is, he's there and I go into wardrobe and I'm sitting there, I see Ron was like, because I remember him, I used to go to a school right above NBC. And I used to go down to Welcome Back Carter set all the time. I did school and go down there, so I knew him at a very young age. So I saw him there, and there was a big, if you remember, he used to wear these big, like, he had this, the big scarves, but they were red and white, and all of a sudden, there was one in wardrobe that looked just like the one he did. And I went up and I wrapped it around his door, and was right, and knocked on the door and run away. And finally he did, just went there, finally he goes, I'm not a horse shot anymore! He screamed out like this, it was just like echoing constantly. And he gave me such a kick. And then, 2 years later, and he passes away, and I felt terrible, but his drama, like how much I am not Horseshack anymore! And it was just silly, kind of, this person. And the odds of me going to school with her or knowing him, Hollywood was very tight back then. Wasn't a lot of, it was the San Fernando Valley.
Yeah.
Was your options, and like you could go over to Hollywood a little bit, but there was literally a small group of people that we all did that. We're all like, that's the end.
Tom, did you have him in mind when you were casting? Or that,
Yeah, that's interesting.
No, people have asked me that over the years. It's like, were you like a big fan of Welcome Back Kotter? I said, I hate to say I never saw it.
She just read it.
He was Horseshack. He was the funniest guy, and I thought he would be great. It's the same thing with Tom's movie. I haven't seen that either. It just, you feel the talent's there, and you want that person, in your movie. And
He was dramatic.
he's a, Travolta, person as well. That's why they were really sure. It's like, come on, you had to, this, happenstance.
Tom, I got one question for you. When you said before, when you were talking about the attachment that you had to the 007 thing, was there any problems with, like, since you had that beginning of it, was there any sort of, did you have a connection to keep it from being any sort of congruous, like any sort of legal, because it was pretty obvious kind of like what you were trying to do. Back then people look for a reason to, like, do it. So there's nothing, you just get away with that.
You just do it and see if anybody squawks.
I got you.
And they didn't like these movies at that time. I mean, the critics and everybody, there was just us mud people.
Did anybody ever get like great reviews, like, well, this is the one? I mean, it wasn't always, because it was the people's choice.
Well, what saved me, and I didn't realize it at the time, was, in theater, the thing called breaking the fourth wall, which is what you're doing the play, and suddenly you looked at the audience and said, "This making any sense to you guys?" And then you go back into the play. So putting the caretaker looking at this camera and going, some people have a strange idea in their pants. That made the critics go, well, you can't hate a movie that's making fun of itself. And it really changed a lot of, opinions. Or starting with the James Bond thing, they realized this is not your normal, Friday the 13th. So that, we've got, Variety, New York Times, we had a lot of ones that, actually liked it. Still said, well, they still gotta have a body count or something like that, but the rest of it, like the actors, was great.
And you have all sorts of innuendos in the film. Tell them a couple of the things, the little secrets that you have in there.
Secrets.
Well, like
The smiley
innuendo,
face on the
but
tree.
you have
Oh, yeah.
the books. There's a book.
The books, the
on-
lightning that wakes Jason up from Frankenstein.
Yeah, because I thought, how else are you going to bring somebody back from the dead? You have to do Frankenstein. And then I thought, I don't want people to think I'm stealing it, so I put Karloff's Market, in the background. So it's like, and then Cunningham Road to give tribute to Sean Cunningham and Carpenter. And, so I tried to put as many, things that I thought would be fun to discover.
There's so much genius in that film, Tommy. It's like literally, if I could find one human being that could be like, so many things I couldn't find it all out. You just said so many things that you were so well tuned into that. Like that was a well-oiled machine. Were you happy at the end of it when you looked at the movie? Were you? I know that you would like to, but maybe kept some more like stuff that they wouldn't let you. Because did you realize this? I believe I'm saying this. When I got stabbed in the head, you actually see because the knife came when CJ had his, and he was brilliant at this. When he took care of her in that bathroom and slammed her all over the place, she literally got slammed all over the place because he could gently slam you and not break your bones. And he had, as I remember, there was like a piece that was a collapsible knife. It's a picture of this. I don't see it was done opposite. The knife's completely collapsed. So all of a sudden I'm dead, snaps up, and I start driving again. So if you would have kept the whole thing, you would have seen that knife. You would have never known it didn't go straight into my head, and it would have been like X-rated or whatever. It would have been like that's the way they did that back then. So you know what I'm saying? So they would have done all that. But when you look back on the movie, was there anything that like, were you happy with the movie?
Yeah, I mean, basically it's the director's cut with some trims, at the end of the kills, is basically all they did, because something get cut out. They said, no, it's just, they squished the.
It's editor pleasure a lot of times,
It's
it's pleasure will take away from the
come
image,
on. You saw all 3 heads get decapitated at the same time, which was a really difficult special effect to do. So
Do you ever
most
have
people
any of
were
that
upset.
footage left?
Sorry?
Do you have any of that footage left?
It's not in the truck, it's actually out the truck, right now, it's in the truck.
It's in a box somewhere, and nobody's found it.
Wouldn't it be amazing to do it?
It is probably somewhere.
Oh.
You guys heard that? It's on the floor of the editing floor. So much stuff, great stuff.
I think ours is the most popular. I think part 6 is, isn't it? Am I wrong?
Yeah, it seems like from what people have said, that when they do the polls, Friday the 13th.
Well, again, I think it goes back to the relationship with the characters, that you invest in the characters, that's what really draws them in. And also, I mean,
And kids can watch it, it's
there's
not so
lighting, I mean,
violent.
part 5 was just so, I got terrified I was gonna do part 6.
So glad I
This is
wasn't in it.
awful. Oh my God. There was no, I mean, artistically, but there was no, I mean, cinematography wise, it was just like, it was all just white and no shadows, no nothing, it was just, wasn't even
It's called fartistic.
Well, he was a pornography director.
Well, that's what it looked like to me, and that's what I thought, and then I found out he was afterwards. So that made sense. What t-shirt contest? I mean,
So,
And I was a good Catholic boy, so every movie you see a little praying. And the only thing that they did cut out of Paramount is she does this when Megan's trying to revive Tommy, and then when he comes back, she goes, like that, and they said, no, you gotta take that out. I said, why? It's a child doing it. It's like, oh, we don't want to, still afraid of like the religious thing. It's like, but it's a character.
Right.
But those kind of things like go crazy when they say.
When you wrote this, Tommy, did you know in your head, because a lot of times you'll write people like their characters, like take like Eddie Murphy, he'll write all these like aunts and uncles, all this stuff he does it. Was there anybody that you like actually knew that they could score like anything you envisioned or just made up characters? Anybody like, because Court's kind of strange. I don't know anybody named Court, so it's like, well, where did that name come from? Why was that like?
Yeah, well, in the script, selling the original script they had out there, when it was called Jason, it's Risen, and that was another thing they said, not too religious. I said, okay, how about Jason Lives? Okay, Jesus Lives. No.
That sounds good.
Jason has Risen, but your guys have different character names in that script. I don't know when you changed it to the.
Was my name Bob Sorensen?
Okay. I don't remember that. And it also has Jason's father in it at the end, and they said beforehand, before we even shot it, you can't do that because the crowd's going to go, oh, the next one's going to be about his dad, and no. So he said, we better not, show that. But the irony is, all these years later, he's become Jason's father in the Vengeance series, if you guys have seen that, and I got to be the caretaker in Vengeance 2. He kicks the shit out of me. So I got a piece of what everybody else got in the movie, which I
And then
love.
he kicks the shit out of me again in Vengeance 2. It's like,
Yes.
he won't leave me alone. Even as an old guy, he's still beating on me, so it's rude.
be gentle.
Till the day I die.
so I think in my opinion, in the Friday franchise, I think the RV scene is probably the best scene in the entire franchise. And for the 4 people that were involved in that scene to be here is awesome for a moderator, because could you just take us through how that was shot and how you guys did it? Because it's,
Well, let's talk about the jockstrap.
Everything was rigged, so it looked like the RV was moving, like the little paintings and pictures on the wall were on little strings, and it was so fun to shoot that when Nikki like hits the wall and goes back and forward because everything was completely still. So making it believe that there was movement in the RV was really.
You guys, it was so
fun.
so painful for us when it flipped over and we landed. Oh. That's when we get to this question. Like, how painful was it when you landed? Like,
What did you flip like 3 times?
oh my God. It was, this is beautiful about that. This is where editing is beautiful. The editing of that, it just stops, the music stops, it just goes, and that's like this gorgeous thing when you have a budget that's limited. It's like the same way you did with my Nelson with the kids. It's humor is like, takes one split second to make it hilarious or not funny at all. but it was, the editing was so great in that, as far as that goes. If you like that scene, but it was so awkward for me. She had fun. I promise you, I was so awkwardly like uncomfortable and so intimidated by her. I can't even tell you. So that was probably the hardest.
Well, he was talking smack in the beginning, and then he had to change his boxers. And
Oh, I'm like, straight naked underneath.
interesting. All of a sudden, your whole persona changed.
Oh yeah, I remember like the cocky,
Not so cocky anymore.
and that's when she tried to dance. Like, here we go. I was like, yeah.
And CJ and I were in that the bathroom.
But I wasn't wearing a jump
But you look how big he is, and that bathroom's like 3 by 3. And
All the walls came out, and they shot from up above.
Kicked the shit out of me.
Woo!
And she hit me.
Significantly
All I did was
strong.
hold on as best I could so I wouldn't hurt her, and she just went to town. Don't
did,
let go
Darcy.
over,
You really
don't
did.
let go over, she'll fall.
Yeah.
So I just held her as comfortably as I could, and she kicked and hit,
She did.
moved and pinched and screamed and yelled, and I think she probably broke the set 3 times. You know what I mean? It was like
If we put that movie on right now, I would completely buy her like kicking and really like you were doing. It was 100% like you looked like you were. It was like I wanted to jump through the screen. Like why was I being a dick? And I was like I wanted to come save you because you looked seriously in debt. Like,
And she
like,
did really trust me. I mean that. Tom put the camera right here and said, "Okay, I want you to take her head and throw it into the camera."
Yeah.
And she really let go and just let me handle her face.
Full trust.
My job was most important not to hurt anybody because again, I don't care how experienced you are or not. The first swinging of the knife towards his head is a real knife, and then I stop. Maybe a foot away, but it's trusted that you're gonna stop. But everything throwing her head into that camera lens, and I don't think it's only about that big, and it's just a matter as close as I could get at that lens and stop to freak everybody out. Which she gave me full control is what I'm trying to say. So
Your military discipline probably would outlay anything stunt people would have because it's like such a life or death shit. Ideally, you were so disciplined and able. Plus, you were so strong, you were able to take that and stop it right.
that's why I say she gave me her head.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
really let
she
me,
committed, and you did.
And my eyesight was probably better than that, right?
You didn't trust us.
Everything's kind of blurry now.
That's a,
but
that's
back
a,
then,
that's a funny,
Right on the scene.
that's a funny concept. That's a funny concept. Make a parody of Part 6 with us.
Plus, it just goes crunches. No nasty needed. There it is.
Shit goes wrong.
It'd be fun to do a knockoff of Part 6 with all different humorous things.
Literally
They had
called
to get
knockoff.
crushed. Oops.
It would be knockoff, like knock like you're knock her nose off.
CJ, how did you film when you came out of the RV? Up out of that. Talk about filming that.
It was really, once it was flipped, so the stunt people, Michael Nomad and his team did the flip. Tom just took the hinges off the door and just the bolts, and they put me on a couple 3 boxes, and I squatted down as low as I could with fist and I hit it as hard as I could, and it flew. We all just I was looking, they're looking at me, I'm like, "Ooh, that's pretty cool." And it just flew. I mean, the adrenaline's at that point, and then my job was to step out with 1 step without
Quarter-inch
down. And I was fortunate
on
enough.
fire.
Yep.
Don't forget, he can't really see either because he's got the
I
mask.
don't see
above
nothing,
mask.
so I got up and made my beat to the left and went to the edge and just stood there. And Tom knows this, it was the last shot of the day. It was bright, the sun was coming up. And if we didn't get it, we'd lose it. And we don't have another mobile home, so it looks kind of light in the background, but that's the sun coming up.
There's something you might not know that's an interesting fact about that. When that truck was thinking about this, realize this is a low budget film. You have your one camera, you keep your camera around, you use it through the shots. When that one stunt thing happens, that's when you bring in 2 more cameras. You get one of the coverage because we want to see it flip it, we want to have this way when it hits the camera. So all of a sudden it's like so important you get these things set because we only got 1 motorhome, 1 shot of this. So as it comes up and spins, you guys see it. You notice it's like it looks from this angle, and it's that angle, and this angle. And then when it hits and it comes out, that's that having that 3 go. Where'd you end up? 3 cameras. 8? Yes, but that's tell me how expensive that day. That's probably the most expensive. That's an expensive day. All that stuff rent, and you got all those little bits of. Did you go? You were doing like because my uncle Joey did the thing when he used to get like the half like with the film because you were back in the day with the film. Film was expensive. It was so then you had to have it start the dailies had to be processed and all this stuff. So when you had 8 cameras running at one time, it's like that's a lot of film. That's spinning at one time. And you used to buy half reels, quarter reels, because it only was gonna be 5-10 minutes here, or 6 minutes. But that was expensive, that's probably the most expensive.
Did you say you lost one? One camera got dissolved or broken?
I forgot about that.
Apparently, they should have had some insurance on that, but film was expensive.
Yeah, I mean, no one had ever done that before, flip the motorhome. And so to the stunt people, I said, well, how are we gonna do this? Because somebody's gotta be driving. And he said, yeah, no, we've got a guy who's gonna be great.
We don't really care about it, he'll do it.
Don't worry about it.
His wife hates his kids, act winner.
Well, it did get laughable, but I said, can we do something? 'Cause I don't wanna see the thing collapse or hurt anybody.
They built the whole cage in there.
So they built, reinforced it with steel and things, so there's no way it was gonna fall. And they brought this guy in, and, you know, he was a good old boy from down south. So on the day we were shooting, the last sequence of the movie, you know, everything had to go right. You didn't have a second motorhome and stuff. You know, you had a certain speed to hit a ramp and go airborne. It went much further than expected.
It was beautiful though.
We had a look.
Looked so damn good.
When the stuntman arrived, he was in an Evel Knievel jumpsuit. Oh, shit. You know,
Don't care.
I thought he was gonna just, get us.
Give me the money for the roll bar, we'll take her out.
Like, he got in there and he did it, he made it work, and, you know, he came out of there, you know, like, because his head was on, the force of that, but he did it great. I was on my knees, literally, praying through the whole thing.
It really was. It was edited. So it is. Every time I watch it, it's remarkable. It's so that silence of it is just like it's so. It is.
Yeah.
I don't want. I had nothing to do with it, but I'm saying it was brilliant. The whole feel of it was so. The silence of it going, the music going and then stopping, and hitting, and him popping up was like. It just was. It was well.
I got a question.
I'm sorry. We don't even. You sure he told you that? Did I just
Did you know we went to junior high together?
I gotta go, but it's been a pleasure.
So Tom, you're obviously a horror fan, and when you were watching CJ come up and then stand in the end, did you know you had something special in that shot?
Yeah, I did. Somebody made a poster that we have over there of him standing there, and it's exactly the right image to me for the movie, because it's like the caveman standing on top of the dinosaur. You know, I've conquered this big thing, you know, and to me that was it, because it's always about killing a monster, right? And, you know, we're never going to stop him, but certainly anything else that he can nail, he'll do it. And just the images of that was wonderful.
And one last question for me before we take it to the audience. CJ, talk about the ending and filming in water. Is there anything worse than filming in water?
Lava's worse.
There are 4 bodies of water for that scene. One of them is Tom McLaughlin's mother and father's pool in the backyard. One of them is a stagnant lake in Covington, Georgia. The other is a 6-foot pool at USC, I believe. And the next to that is the 20-foot diving pool, which is the other body of water that was used. So it's 4 different bodies of water for that one scene. So cold, different. Safety divers were amazing. That's a real chain around my neck. They put me on 2 center blocks so that they'd always take me to the same location at the bottom of the water. Signal for air, they'd come in and put the regulator in your mouth and clear it because you can't see anything. You know, you only have one eye to begin with, but it's black. Tom put tarps around the pool so it's dark, and you're kind of at the mercy of everybody around you or their good faith. But I still always talk about the scene where they had to do the hit on the mask, and Tom asked her mom and dad if he can do it in their pool in their backyard. And I think going down to the pork place or something to get some guts and shit. And I recall, if I recall, unless I was just dreaming, he promised mom and dad he'd clean the pool after.
How to get new filters.
Yes. So when you think about it, that's how that scene of 4 different bodies of water, Tom and I are in 2 of them, you know, actually 3 of them. He was in the stagnant lake too, in the boat. But they also moved that over to the 6-foot pool to finish out where it breaks and everybody goes to the bottom. And Tom was underwater. He probably conservatively did 95% of his own stunts underwater.
Wow.
Again, trust in each other, and you know, we were both, trusting the safety divers. And the only difference between Tom and I is he had a little bit of a vision because he could see divers around him. If they were only 5 feet away, probably, but I couldn't tell you where they were. just off camera, so
One for you, one for me, one for the camera guy had his own.
Yep.
Oxygen. Camera puller had his own.
They release us and we go to the top and do this. Tom would be there with his little monitor telling us yay, 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 and we never really heard the word action underwater. We'd hear I'd hear the camera roll. And when it would roll, we'd take a deep breath and go to work. Yeah, there wasn't any action. Just, I could hear the click, 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 click. And that was my indication that it's great time to go to work, take a deep breath, and then I'd go to work.
Wow. I did not know that. It's so cool.
Tell me, let me ask you a question. It seems like after you said 5, you were like so like disciplined. At what point in 6 do you like this is good? This is like you were like, you know what I'm saying?
Well, the script, I mean, yeah, after talking to Tom about it.
I'm gonna take your job.
We're
all separated.
Are you back from the bathroom? I thought you were going to
Flash on.
I don't know. The opening sequence, I mean, you know, it just starts the movie off right before the credits even roll. So
I just didn't know while you were
I
shooting.
don't even remember what my first scene was when we got there, because I was actually coming from another job in Mexico, and that was the first time I had a job back to back, because it never really happened that often.
Everything's out of sequence with movies. They don't shoot like in sequence. They're very odd.
All right, who has some questions?
The girl on the pink list, she has a question.
She did, but she kept going about the bathroom.
I took through another 20 grand.
Go for it.
So, for you guys, you shot the scene with Paula in the cabin. I love the imagery of like your mind wandering. Normally when you see Jason kill someone, it's quick. Yeah, it happens. You see it even when engaging. But that one, you're like minutes. It felt like 5 to 10 minutes went by. You're like, what is he doing to her? In that scene, and I know the ratings are giving you guys a hard time, but when you shot that, was that your plan? Or was it something like they just put you in the fire, you're like, let's shoot it this way and see how it comes out?
Well, the best thing, and I don't know if you guys agree or not, but it's what you don't see that's scarier. And they learned that years ago, and certainly Steven Spielberg learned it on Jaws, that damn shark didn't work well, so they didn't have all the footage they wanted. But then the way Vera Fields put the cut together and John Williams' score, you began to realize you gotta wait and wait, and your imagination was really taking over. And there was a famous director, Hal Luton, during the 40s, just made things about shadows, and he did the original Cat People, and you never actually saw the panther like he did later on Cat People. It was just a shadow and things, and they were enormously successful and cheap, to make. So the thing is always that if you can take the audience to a certain point, and then if you don't quite see what happens, you can imagine it. And I wanted that one scene where he slams the door with her, you see her get thrown kind of through the window and back, and the next time you come in, it is a freaking bloodbath. I mean, we had blood everywhere, and I wanted Megan to respond to that, and of course her father, the sheriff. So the rest of us are going, what happened? So to this day, Paula, the actress, she says, I think I'm still alive. I think I'm in pieces, but I'm still alive. I want to do a sequel, because we had never actually seen her body.
The thing is a good example of that. Not seeing or not even being around.
All right, who else?
First, I want to say your death is like one of those ones that I actually felt bad for you. Like in most of the other movies, I'm kind of like, just thinking back, that kind of thing. But like when you're in there screaming, like it's like legit, like horrifying. Still to this day, like it feels so real and just more visceral than most of the kills, even though they're gory. But it's like more of that, like, please don't kill me, I don't want to die. And you're going to die, and you know that's coming. But
You can tell she's really fighting for her life.
yeah, exactly.
And it's real.
Guess
Really
what?
great job.
They brought me back in vengeance because you never saw me dead. So I'm back as Nikki.
that's
6
cool.
years later.
How's your face in that one? Is it on?
I'm scarred. I was like, you gotta do something.
Scars and no teeth.
So my question was actually for CJ. We talked a little bit when I met you in there about your gait, the way you walk. and the way you moved, and it's very different than all the other Jasons. Like, you know, Kane's kind of lumbering and big, and, you know.
Go ahead and tell him that to his face.
No, we're not.
Yeah, we'll see, all talk. I'm gonna record. I wanna show him.
No, I meant it in a good way, like, you know, like, it's more that lumbering. But, yours is more like focused, and it's just, did you just do that, or did you have like something you thought like, oh, I thought back to this movie, or this guy, or, you know, military something, or it was just happy?
It was just straight, you know, Tom wanted, very straightforward, and my walk, if you see me walk around, is just very, even I'm 6'3", kind of 250-ish, it's like, you know, 30 inches all around when you're marching, and it just became natural after 49 years ago, being in the military at 17, it's just what I do, how I walk, and I had the physical structure. So Tom was very clear, like I said, directionally, and telling you the movement he was looking for. Didn't want a robot completely. Didn't want you to have dumb. Wanted you to at least be appeared that you're starting to connect the brain cells, the dots, so to speak, as you're going through this process. So don't make Jason look dumb in so many words. So for me, it was just really solid walk. And to be quite honest, part of the other thing is when you're wearing a hockey mask and you can only see out of one eye, you have no peripheral vision, you can't see your feet, you make sure every step counts. Because if you don't hit it, you're going to go down. So I challenge anybody to put a hockey mask on and black out one eye and walk through the hallway. You don't see your feet at all, just for the record. You don't see anything 90 degrees left or right. You just see directly in front of you, and those hills and walking and going through the door, like Tom said, okay, we're going to do a door shot. Try to get through the door and don't fall down, because if you hit a piece of that wood as you go through, it's going to twist you. You know, going out the side of the cabin was about a 12-inch drop. You had to break through and then a whole step down, trying to get through, because it was an expensive shot. We'd have to reset without tripping or hurting yourself, you know, so you're making sure you're blowing your knee through that door, and that first step counts. But when you can't see too much, it's all just pretty much hand and eye coordination.
Use the force. Yeah, it's for me, it's the embodiment of Jason. Like,
Yeah.
That singular.
I've been very fortunate because it's been a characteristic. I mean, you know, Keenan and I are good friends, and I remember when we did part 7, the first thing I said to him was, "Why are you breathing? He's dead." I did. I said it to him. And
See, you'll say his face.
Damn, you're right. So we had to do it forever. So every time you see him, he's doing this. He has to, because he did in part 7. But he's dead. You don't need to breathe. But you know, you pick up that trait once you carry it forth. You don't want to be too inaccurate from film to film. So he carried it through 4 of them, and he did.
I had a Terminator thought in my head when I was writing it, but we had Dan Bradley, and if you look at Dan, the daytime stuff, with the paintball, he walks different than what CJ does. I think with the cuts you don't really notice, but you know, when he came in and he was the way he was, I went, just do what you're doing. And only occasionally would I, you know, have him, you know, snap his head or, you know, do anything that was a little robotic, but we just put it, you know, through, I don't know how many volts of electricity, so he shouldn't, you know, lope along. I didn't think it had to be, you know, a machine almost, but not, he's still human, but not, you know, he's undead, but he's not a zombie. And I get that all the time. Oh, a zombie. No, you even have the sheriff shoot him in the head, like the way he's supposed to do. He kicks his head back and then keeps going. You cannot stop him. So,
Was that intentional?
Yeah.
Like, to be like, he's not a zombie?
yeah, but
Yeah,
he was nailed
he
with
told me that
that.
I'm not a zombie.
Yeah.
I don't want a zombie.
Frankenstein's not a zombie. I mean, you know.
No, I mean, when you had somebody shoot him in the head, like, was that for everybody to see, like, okay, he's not a zombie, we shot him?
Whoever picked up on it, yeah. You know, I mean, I wasn't squishy like, you're not a zombie.
All I know is that snap your head back and then bring it back forward real slow. Okay. Just every time I got shot with the shotgun, I'd pull back into the ground and then pop up. And then get shot, roll it, pop back up. It was always intentionally that every time you can take it, you know, take a beating, kind of like the Wolverine, basically, a heel. Back up. But the Wolverine didn't exist back then. That's something you refer to today compared to back then. And the only reason I came up with it, I remember watching it last night in my room. Oh yeah, Wolverine. Like, you know, it comes back, you know.
They're looking for a new Wolverine.
Okay. Next question.
So I had a couple things. First one was when we had PM here last time, when Kane and Laura were here.
Was I here?
No, you were on the previous before though.
So it wasn't a good panel.
They asked, yeah, so anybody watch part 7, is it your favorite at the beginning? Part 6 was better.
Who said that?
I got that on camera.
Who said that?
I did.
You did?
I did. Kane stopped in his tracks.
Yes.
Who said that? He said
Oh,
he'd
he
get me
doesn't
later.
like that.
Yeah, so I know he has a sense of humor.
Yes.
You guys
Oh, I
love
read
messing
out
with
of them, just for the record.
I've been on panels with both of them. Oh, that's interesting.
Part 6, though, I look for little stupid things in the movies. You did a lot of stuff like you were saying. There was one scene with the paintballers where he takes a swipe and all 3 heads come off. For the longest time, I'm talking probably 20 years, you see that hat when they drop. We were rewatching it before the weekend. I said, watch. It's now gone.
Oh, how's the possible?
I don't know. Somebody must have caught it somewhere and took it out.
I never noticed it.
So can they just like take stuff out of the
Oh, yeah,
movies
digital.
again?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I thought maybe it was something that you knew about, caught later on, and like, oh.
I never noticed it, but I don't
What's
know
the
what
old
you could have done
version?
other than, you could actually sort of paint things out now, digital, but you couldn't with film.
Yeah, it's just little stupid things. And I was like, watch for the mat. And I was like, shit.
And then you gotta get it on VHS.
Yeah, so now I gotta go back. I'm like, Dad, how do you work
Get the
this?
real deal. Everyone put your hands together.